Well, everybody, it is Sunday Night Live with material issues. Every once in a while, we have actual issues, which happened to me for the last 45 minutes trying to figure this out, but we're here. It's episode number 218, the last day of August, the year 2025. Labor Day's tomorrow. It's gorgeous here on the East Coast, except for some reason the electricity didn't want to work. But I'm Mark Hershberger of Pop Detective Records. Joining me, as usual, my very good friend. He's from Southern California, but much farther north right now. Just finished up IPO Vancouver. It is the president of the International Pop Overthrow Festival, Mr. David Bash. David, good late afternoon for you.
And good evening to you too, Mark.
Oh, Lord Almighty.
We had a great time in Vancouver, as always. For one thing, it's one of my favorite cities in the world. Not that I've been to a lot of them, but Stockholm has to be number one. But Vancouver's number two, and I love it here. We had IPO Vancouver is a lot more like family than probably any of the others. We have a lot of the same bands who play every year, and we sprinkle the schedule with some new ones. And I'll tell you something, the new ones really impressed. Most of them came up from Washington State, particularly Seattle, but there was one from Bellingham, which is a little bit north of Seattle. And they were amazing. I mean, everybody loved them, and they sold a lot of merch. So it almost paid for their gas to get up here. But beyond that, yeah, we love the venue. We love the city. So everything worked out well. We've had a very chill day today. After this, we'll probably go down to the beach, have some dinner, and then we have an early flight home tomorrow.
Oh, very good.
Hey, Tim.
I'm glad it was successful for you, though. I'm glad it was good festival.
Yeah, I mean it was fine. And of course, bought lots of cool records. I didn't post all of them, but I think my favorite thing was the Five Americans album.
Yeah.
Which was a DJ copy. And I don't know that I've ever seen any of those. It wasn't a Canadian pressing, but it still said, it was stamped on the back DJ copy, and it says so on the label. And I'm a sucker for that kind of thing.
Right, man.
No, I already have the album in a standard issue form. But yeah.
Knowing you, anywhere you go, you find something of interesting quality.
Interesting to me, anyway.
Yeah.
And probably should have shown it. But I also bought a couple of things that I may already have. So your care package is just going to continue to get bigger. Nice. I feel much better when I buy when I buy things that I already have. Because I know at least I can find a home for them instead of having to go to the local record shop and resell them.
Hey, listen, I'm fine with being the benefactor. It's okay. And you do have a birthday coming up very soon. So there is
we do IPO Vancouver every Labor Day weekend. So my birthday, which is on the 2nd, occasionally falls during IPO Vancouver, and people up here kind of expect it. So a lot of people were saying happy birthday, which of course it wasn't. And I got a birthday card from one of the band members, and it's absolutely amazing. I'm not going to post it until my actual birthday, but I was flattered.
Oh, nice.
I'll just say it was signed by almost everybody at the clubs.
Oh, wow.
The musicians and everything. So that made me feel really good.
That's very cool. That's very cool.
Oh, what else? Well, you saw that I bought a new watch, the Faro Master 70 Green. But I since our guest has written about so many things 70s, I thought I would bring out an actual 70s watch today. I haven't worn this one for a while because it hadn't fit. Once I lost all the weight, it suddenly fit again. This is an actual 70s Pulsar.
Oh yeah, I have one. I have virtually the same one.
and it actually still works. Look at that.
Yeah, I think that was
hard to maneuver.
I think mine was like 1972 gift from my parents, and I still have it. It still
you
works.
Still have one? Does it have the 2 buttons or just the one?
It's just got the one.
Yeah, it's a little. Your model's a little bit earlier, but yeah. I mean, this screams 70s, and they sold a hell of a lot of them when Telly Savalas deigned to wear one on Kojak.
Yeah.
Although he wore that really ugly copper color one, which I'm glad I don't have.
Such great memories. Man, great stuff.
I have a story about Telly Savalas, but I'm not sure it's ready for prime time. I'll tell it anyway. Very quickly, we should bring our guest on. But my dad used to have an office in Manhattan, and it was in a group of suites, and one of the suites was occupied by a guy who purportedly was a film director. I don't know what he really was, but his real forte was getting women to come up there and ultimately sleeping with them. So, one day he's got one at home, and he's trying to impress her, and he says, "You know what? Besides all of my other talents, I'm a musician. I'm a magician, not a musician." And invariably, the woman would say, "Oh, really? Show me how." And he'd say, "Watch me make Kojak appear." And suddenly, out of the closet would come Telly Savalas, because they were good friends.
Yeah.
I needn't go any further.
Right. No, we get where you're going. It's good.
He did add, I don't get it. For such a big guy, he has such a little schmuck. So now the whole world knows Macho Telly Savalas just was not.
You heard, yeah.
The only thing he was packing was a gun. All right. Enough of that. I think our guest, being of the female persuasion, just got offended by that. Oh, she's saying no. All right, good. Anyway, we're very, very glad to have our guest. She's an author and a fan of many things 70s. Apparently, she's written a treatise on the band that was part of a group of articles that was published. But then she decided, I'm going to write my own books. And she wrote one on America, who's one of my favorite bands. And then after that, her latest book is one on who I think is one of the more misunderstood artists of the 70s, 60s and 70s, at least understood the pop fans, because, they think of him for his big hits. And while they were fine, I'm a fan, he did a lot more than that. I mean, his earlier albums were a little bit bluesy, and then in the early 70s, when he got signed to Columbia, his albums were really soulful. They were nice before he started doing the dancey stuff. But anyway, this is the book right here, Lowdown. Nice. The music of Boz Scaggs. I forgot the second word, which of course is music, so how could I? Co-written by, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right, I've always seen it in print, but David Page? She says yes. Who was one of the founders of Toto. Another very misunderstood band by the pop scene. People again think of them for their hits, and while again I love some of their hits, especially Africa, their albums are great. I mean, they are talented musicians. I have to say that, and I mean, even the song. I mean, oh, there we go. So now I don't have to hold the book up. It's a heavy tome.
Your arm was getting heavy.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Anyway, without further ado, would you please give a huge welcome to Jude Warne?
There's Jude.
Hey guys, glad to be here.
How are you?
We're glad to have you. I'm glad you didn't run away after that story.
The empty chair. No, I'm still here. Anything Kojak related, I always like. It's like one of my.
See, this is one of the things I wanted to ask you right off the bat. I mean, either you're a miracle of science or you're very young, and obviously you weren't even born when these things happened. What gave you such a huge interest in all things 70s?
Well, I grew up with classic rock, obsessed, or I don't like to use the word fan. I prefer like a nicer word than that. But my family are huge music fans, so I grew up hearing all the records all the time. from the time I was really small. There was a great importance in the household on music and from the 60s, 70s, and 80s and stuff. And I got to know it there, and I liked it. I liked a lot of it, and I always like cataloging what I would remember from certain albums and songs, liner notes, that kind of thing, and it just built up along my years. And then when I got to grad school, I decided to write about some 70s music there in longer form, and then that kind of put me on this book trajectory that we're talking about. But yes, it is. I'm a bit of an anachronism, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Were you a bit of a pariah among your age group as far as what you were listening to and digging and what they were? Because my daughters, who are 30 and 26, I was raising them on, early 70s power pop and a lot of Scandinavian pop, and of course their friends were all listening to One Direction and all that kind of, and they were a little bit like ostracized in a nice way about, what are you listening to? What is this Raspberries thing? And they loved it. But how was your friend group? Did they look at you as a dinosaur?
No, I think they probably just got a kick out of it, or found my knowledge to be of value. Occasionally, I generally hung out with musician type teenagers, students like myself. I'm also a musician, and they are generally open to like at least hearing about different kinds of eras and stuff. So I wasn't ever.
Yeah, I see a bass guitar behind you. Is that your?
Yes, that's
instrument of choice.
I prefer piano, actually. But I do have a bass here and guitar I like playing. But yeah, that got a bit dusty. I'm sad to say.
Where did you grow up? Where was your childhood spent?
I grew up in New York. Yeah, so in Manhattan. So it was a unique childhood that way, I guess. City life rather than a lot of other people do the other route. But it was a nice, cultural place to be. Obviously,
sure.
Museums, concert halls, and all that stuff.
Unlike the 70s, your accent has gone by the wayside.
I guess. Yeah, I guess that's a good thing.
No, I mean, I was brought up in New York State, although I had, I had a bit of a New York accent regardless. And when I moved to California, I made a conscious decision to get rid of it. And so, is this something that did you have one and then decide that it's not me?
No, I don't think I ever really had one. Maybe because I didn't grow up in the boroughs so much. I have family there, and I've been there, spent a lot of time there. But just growing up in Manhattan and going to school here, it's kind of just no accent that I know of. But you never know.
I hear it.
I grew up in Pennsylvania Dutch country, and I tried very hard to emulate the Beatles as I heard them in interviews growing up. So I would not sound like a guy that came from a Pennsylvania Dutch countries. I couldn't handle it. So I said,
a little Swedish in that Pennsylvania Dutch there, Mark.
Well, I am Danish. There's Danish in my background. Come on, give me a little bit of credit. But no, I couldn't handle that accent. So
we're both of us are Scandinavia-ophiles. We both love music from all those countries, and I've actually done the International Pop Overthrow Festival in Stockholm, still doing it there, and Copenhagen.
Oh, wow.
Are you a fan of ABBA?
Yeah, I think Benny and Bjorn, some of the best pop songwriting ever. I think from one perspective, just in terms of the catchiness and the. But short answer, yes, sure, I'm a fan.
And where'd you go to school?
Well, different places around Manhattan, and then college I went to NYU for undergrad and graduate school, so that was a long stint.
I graduated NYU as well.
Oh, nice. Very
before
good.
You. Well before you.
Long before you.
Great school.
Yeah, indeed. Did you go to school for journalism? Were you was that your goal? Was that what you wanted to do?
Kind of. That was interlaced into it. Cinema studies was my focus mainly. So I started out writing about films, like film reviewing and some film theory papers that I was working on there, nerding out, and I did some more history work. And then in graduate school, I got more focused on writing, taking mostly writing courses and some film.
Had you taken any? Well, let me ask you this. I ask all our NYU, I guess, this. Did you take any either journalism or philosophy classes as an undergrad?
I think I took one journalism course, like the intro to journalism, as a test run, and I didn't love it so much. Especially being a creative writer a lot on my own time, writing fiction, I just felt like I didn't need to. I got it. I got the shtick of it, and of course learned some useful information about interviewing and stuff. But it just wasn't my game. I kind of like being a bit more of a poetic writer, which is maybe not the traditional investigative reporting, although those qualities come into it, of course.
Yeah. Did you take any philosophy?
I'm so interested in philosophy, and I read a lot on my own, but I don't think I ever took a course in it. No, unfortunately.
There was a philosophy professor there named Robert Gerland, and I had him for a couple of classes, and we got to know each other, and lost touch over the years, but recently got back in touch. It's a long, convoluted story, but he was at age 91, he was a guest of ours. Because there was a documentary done on him. He became an incredibly well-known and well-loved philosophy professor. So that was fun. I'll tell you about it sometime because it's...
Yeah, you have to check out the episode because the reason...
It's weird, all very weird.
It's weird and wacky, and it's actually pretty unbelievable. So, but too long of a story to get into right now. But check out our previous show on that. Wonderful.
So what... all right, so you're taking creative writing. Did you write anything other than music prior to all this, or?
Well, I did some film reviewing here and there for an online magazine, Film International. I do these kind of one-off film reviews, sometimes a few interviews with documentary filmmakers there. But I love going to concerts and was doing that anyway, so I started doing some live reviews in the New York area. The Vinyl District is this great classic rock online outlet that I got hooked up with, and I'm still working with them now and then. They kind of have an old-fashioned, or classic rather, approach to rock journalism with for their interview features, for example. It kind of looks like the 70s Rolling Stone interviews. I think they're kind of treated with reverence and stuff, and they're done very well aesthetically, so I like being associated with them, and I've interviewed a lot of great people through that magazine of my own doing, but I got to interview Chris Stein of Blondie when his memoir came out. That was great. And Donald Fagen around one of the tours he did a few years ago, Jim McCarty of the Yardbirds, and Bobby Whitlock from Derek and the Dominoes, who just passed away sadly. Nice. And Julian Lennon too, a few years ago when his new album came out. So it's been a nice way for me to stay in touch with the musicians who I love writing about. And sometimes, like, for example, I interviewed Jerry Beckley of America for the first time through that outlet, and then that kind of led to the biography later on, a year later. But so sometimes those kind of fruitful things happen from there too.
That Jerry Beckley, I met him once, well, twice, but he may not remember either time. But his son, Matt, had a band called TEA, and they played my festival at a club called Spaceland in Los Angeles. Okay. And that was I was flying back from Nashville also for the festival, and somebody had told me that America was sitting in first class. Of course, I wasn't. But sure enough, they were there. I had to sneak a peek. And after we deplaned and were walking towards baggage, I noticed Jerry walking by himself. So I went up to him and I said, Jerry, your son Matt played my festival. I figured that would be a good opening because it's not the kind of thing he generally would hear. And he had a big smile, and we spoke a little more. He was just super nice. And then when we got to baggage, Dewey Bunnell was there as well. And I said, Jerry, may I have a photo? And he said, hey, Dewey, photo op. So Dewey came over, and I have a photo of me with the two of them. So that was nice. I mean, the one thing that I always worried about growing up was if I ever meet my hero, they may be assholes, and my heart will break. Mm-hmm. Has your experience generally been that of the people that you met that they've all been really nice? You don't have to name names here.
Yes, specifically this person was an ass.
Generally speaking, yes. As a whole, I mean, I haven't ever, I don't believe, been terribly disappointed. The worst thing that happened is like someone not having a lot of time or something to speak because of they were on their way somewhere or something. But generally, yes, I have very good memories of that kind of thing, which I know what you mean. I have that feeling too, ever meeting like certain heroes of mine. If it ever went sour, that would kind of ruin my life. So I like to keep up the good track record, and then getting to know some musicians better, like with the America guys, because I interviewed them so many times for that book. That was even more fruitful too, just to see different sides of their persona and their character and integrity that again and again proved to be there was very encouraging too, and left such a positive imprint for me.
I have not. I haven't gotten the America book yet, so I don't know the answer to that. This, but what are their feelings about Dan Peek?
Oh, well, they have a very wonderful feeling of their work that they did with him, and even though their nightly show that they still do now, although Jerry's not touring with them currently, so Dewey's kind of leading the tour that's going on now. But they always do an homage to Dan's legacy and his work with the band and stuff, and they're so respectful of that time. And speaking with them, me when I got to speak with them for the book, they have such an honor, or they honor his key role that he played in the formation of who they are and who they became in those early years too. And his guitar work was so essential to so many of those recordings, and his beautiful songwriting. So they have very positive things. My chapter, I did write a chapter, of course, in the biography that details a little bit of the specifics that surrounding the not a breakup, but when Dan exited. And I was very proud of how the writing came out, and I loved the elements that Dewey and Jerry separately said about that time, because was a sensitive time for them, any band, someone leaving or breaking up or that kind of stuff. So I really like that chapter, I think, or I tried my best to do, to pay homage as a fan and writer from my perspective of how great Dan was and is, and just how difficult that was for all of them that period, and how well Dewey and Jerry proceeded afterwards and kind of redefined the band. They didn't try to they didn't replace him or anything. They kind of reshaped the sound, and the albums they did after that are pretty different. So I admire them for that.
I'm still a little bit upset at Billboard though. When I had a subscription to Billboard in the late 70s, and there was a review of Harbor, which wasn't out yet. Oh. And that was the first one, I guess, without Dan, right? And it said something.
He was on that. I think that was his last album with them.
Oh, is he still there? Okay. Anyway, it said, this album has an unusual amount of music. And I thought, wow, maybe it's like 50 minutes. It turned out to be 32.
Okay, is that a bad thing?
Thanks. Well, if it's all quality, it's not. But it's like I was really hoping for something like, more America, because I was a huge fan, especially of the George Martin produced stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, Holiday's my favorite album, and Hearts is second. So, but even all of their stuff is just wonderful. Were they one of your favorite bands? Did you aspire to write about them, or was it mostly the Jerry Beckley connection?
I mean, it began with the Jerry Beckley connection a bit, although before speaking with him, I had been very into their music, and mainly for recognizing that there was a bit of a lack in the writing world of critiquing their albums, especially the ones we're talking about. And some of the later albums in the 80s, there wasn't a lot of discourse about that work, and I sensed an opportunity for me as a writer to kind of go in and if I got the chance to write a book about them, to define that, from my perspective. So that was very motivating for me. That's kind of how that led me to writing the Boz book a bit as well. Being a reader and wanting to read more about this band or this artist that I like, and noticing it's not quite there. Although America, there is Dan's memoir, which is great, but it kind of ends the America elements and when he leaves the band. So I wanted to go into the later years, of which decades later of work that the two guys did. So that's kind of my motivation. But yes, of course, I'm a fan of all of their work and stuff. And I think too, those the America guys especially, I didn't grow up hearing them so much. I kind of felt like I found them on my own, although of course it turned out my family and stuff were fans of theirs also later. But I felt like I discovered them more independently, for whatever that's worth.
What What were the challenges when you're interviewing and writing a book on a group where there are more than just an individual? Because the individual can tell you what the story was, and there's really nobody to say that's not the way it went. Did you have to? Was there a lot of back and forth on certain things that you had to say? Well, he said, but you're and then who makes the decision? What goes in the book?
That's a good question. I found that most noticeable from my perspective between some of these anecdotes in Dan Peek's memoir versus hearing Dewey and Jerry talk about certain incidents or just recording experience memories. They didn't, not that they didn't line up, but they were just brought out different sides. So that's where I kind of had to decide which parts to include and which didn't fit in with the narrative that I was trying to tell. But in terms of Jerry and Dewey, I did a lot of interviews at the beginning of our time together anyway with both of them, and it was this group kind of effort, and it was a lot of fun, and they kind of just talked at the same time and together, and it became this, singular story, although they were both speaking. So they didn't come up with them too much. They're pretty aligned, they're such a tight duo, they work so well together, and they kind of have a similar in some ways or united understanding of their own history and story that they like to point out.
Were most of your discussions and interview were you doing this all on audio so you could go back and re-listen and pick out? I'm just fascinated because we talk to people who've written books on artists and things, and I've always had this thing in my head. There's a couple of different artists I would love to do something like that, and I just like to know the process sometimes because it just seems to me very daunting to get hours and hours and hours of information, then start picking through it. And then when you're dealing with a number of people, different aspects, that okay, which is the truth here? What do we go and just how you approached it? Are you outlining things? Did you have an idea on chapter? Wait, how does it go? It's just I'm sorry if you could whittle that down into 30-second answer. It'd be great.
You can take as long as you want to answer it.
We're just teasing. I'm just teasing. But yeah, interesting.
No, that's a good question. Well, I mean, from my writer's journey POV, a lot of the time and just effort that I put into that book, particularly because there were so many interviews with the America guys. I don't want to say half, but so much of that experience for me was the interviews, and then dictating them or transcribing them for myself and whittling through them. And yes, that's a very that's a huge part of that kind of writing. And sometimes it became cumbersome. I always loved speaking with them, of course, the conversations themselves, but the aftermath of sorting through that and transcribing is time consuming. I mean, I do, and every writer has their own preference. Sometimes I use software to speed it up in terms of getting the words down, but it's never perfect. I always have to comb through it. Anyway, yes, that is such a big part of the book writing process, but so valuable. I mean, and just from a historical perspective, to have the interviews and people who were there in the room, and especially in this case, people who were these events happened to. The interviews were about them and their lives. So I was always so appreciative of getting to be in that situation, and also getting to interview a lot of their colleagues.
Right. Yeah. It's not just them. It's peripheral people. Everybody kind of like that touched them in some way, shape, or form, and that just adds to the conglomeration of information.
Did you speak with George Martin at all?
I didn't. He had passed away by the time I was working on that, I believe.
Oh, he had? Oh, okay.
I did speak with his son, Giles Martin, for a bit, and I believe he gave a nice quote for the back of the book, which was fun. I love his work, of course, too. But yes, I didn't. I got to speak with certain interesting people that I, might not have thought of immediately, in terms of telling the America story. But people like Timothy Schmidt from the Eagles, he had worked with them and toured with them a bit, and he had some good memories of the heyday years in the 70s, and then more recently too, working with them in the recording studio. And also Al Jardine from the Beach Boys. He was another interesting person for me. I'm such a Beach Boys fan, so just getting to speak to any of those guys was really, really thrilling. He's close with Dewey, and Bill Mooney is a frequent collaborator with them. He wrote a lot of their songwriting partners sometimes. And
we're laughing for a reason.
No,
Okay.
Jude, you just took David to the highest of highs with your Beach Boys love.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, they're my favorite band.
In the very next breath, you went with Bill Mooney. Sorry, it's an inside.
I know, really, you hit both poles with that one.
Oh,
Now,
no.
Bill, I mean, Bill Mooney, I knew was a good friend of Jerry Beckley. I'd seen a lot of stuff on that. He actually, funny enough, I actually met him at that same Spaceland show that T was playing, because I guess Jerry wasn't there, but I guess he was there, maybe on Jerry's behalf.
Okay.
And I told him that, yeah, I didn't, do the usual Lost in Space stuff. I told him I loved him in Bless the Beasts and Children. Which, have you seen that movie?
No.
There you go.
It's an early 70s movie about a bunch of misfit summer campers who get together and save a bunch, or try to save a bunch of buffalo for being shot for sport. And Bill Mooney is kind of he's the de facto leader of the group. He's a little bit older than the rest of the guys. He plays a guy named Teft, and he's very rebellious, and he's no nonsense. He'll say what's on his mind. Very, very cool character. So I told him that I love that one. But more recently, we tried to get him as a guest on Material Issues, and he said, "Well, sorry, your numbers aren't good enough."
Yeah, early on in our Material Issues, 3
One
years.
of the only people who's turned us down, or at least ostensibly for that reason, and so I had to send him to the cornfield by unfriending him on Facebook. But
Oh no.
I know, really. But I admire his work, of course.
Sure.
How could you not?
But Jude, so the genesis of a book like America, how long did that take you from the moment you said, "Well, this is something I'd be interested to the moment that it was published"? Is that a couple year process, I would assume?
Yeah, it was for sure, because there was I had the idea, put a package together, a proposal detailing my plan, and that it was like the Boss book that I've written, and in general my approach is the album forward discussion. It really focuses on the music, doesn't get too much into the personal lives, which artists tend to like. Which makes sense to me. It's not that invasive, and I know some interviewers take that other route, but I really like the records. So I think that appealed to Jerry. What I'm doing, when I spoke with them about it, I met them, and then it took about a year getting through different channels, getting their dealing with their management, conversing with them, and then my literary agent, and then finding a suitable publisher that everybody was happy with. So that was about a year of that, more businessy, I guess, kind of side. But then once it got started, the interviews really took off, and that was like maybe another year and a half of a lot of interviewing, me writing, editing, all that back and forth stuff.
Can I just ask a real question? It's in the same vein, but off a little bit. With the world today, and it's digital, and my daughter is a big fan of books, so am I. I like the physical product in my hand to look at it. But bookstores are starting to disappear. Books in general, you just don't seem to have. It doesn't seem to mean as much to the younger generation. It seems to be fading, and I feel bad about that. So somebody from your side, where you're creating these things, you're creating the physical product through all this work. What is your feeling on the future of being a writer and books and the direction that goes? Is the physical product just kind of like albums, CDs, cassettes, 8-tracks, they all physical? I mean, albums have come back a bit, but
Don't forget El Cassette.
yeah, El Cassette. Yeah.
Are you familiar with that, Jude?
I don't know if I've ever come across that one. No.
In the late 70s, early 80s, they came out with an El Cassette deck. It was supposed to marry the best features of a cassette and a reel-to-reel. So it was supposed to sound that good on a cassette. Didn't work.
Yeah.
So I always joke about that one, because I almost bought an El Cassette deck just like later on, just for the hell of it. But
well, David and I mean, we both love the physical product. He has a mass amount of CDs and albums, and so do I. And we always talk about, we hope the CD doesn't disappear from the landscape.
With that in mind, I don't even know if I still.
Great. You can answer the question while he's running.
Okay. Yes, that's a good question. For some reason, I always kind of put books in like this other area. I don't think of them the way we're talking about music, which I'm very aware of, like the outdated modes, and even the films, DVDs, VHS tapes. Now both of them are outdated in a way. DVDs are on their way out. I always feel like books are separate. Like the written word isn't this, more, I don't want to say more valuable, but just cataloged in a different manner. The way I view the writing that I do with these music books anyways, I feel like I'm adding something, contributing something to the general music history library that maybe in 300 years, if books still exist, that someone can go and be like, what was that band from 300 years ago that had to do with this or that, and then like this is a reliable tome or something to at least gain some facts or insight from. So I remember a while when I was in grad school, actually a while ago, I was dealing with trying to figure out what to do with your life and how to kind of see value beyond the temporality that we all deal with as mortals here. That there's an end date, unfortunately, to all of us individually, and that creating work separate from yourself theoretically create you're like adding years to your footprints or I remember that made me feel comforted. Like there's kind of theoretically this eternal part of you that lives on if you do an album or a book or something or film or anything you create. Not to get too heavy, but yeah,
it's absolutely true, and you've got that on on your, I don't know what do you even call it, your
legacy.
Your legacy. Good word, because long after you're gone, hopefully there will still be copies of these books around, and someone can see your name on it. I've got the same thing with all my record label and all my releases.
Right.
It's Pop Detective Records. David has got IPO not only CDs but everything that he's done throughout the world. He's got a brick on the wall on Matthew Street at the
show her a picture because she mentioned Chris Stein.
All right, so there's David.
Ooh, how cool.
And
40 pounds ago, maybe, but yeah.
40 pounds ago.
So this photo doesn't show that Clem Burke, the drummer of Blondie, his brick is right next to mine.
He's right. Yeah, we see the E in Burke, but
that's right.
Yeah,
Very
but
cool.
That's David, and there he is holding up his actual brick, a copy of his brick. That
with a woman without whom International Pop Overthrow could never have happened. Well, it would have happened, but it wouldn't have flourished the way it has. My wife Rena, who's actually sitting back there reading. Are you reading, honey?
No.
What?
See, reading a book.
Oh no! Wait, she's working. She's an aerospace engineer, so
Cool.
it's a very intense job. She's in the zone right now.
But no, it's it's a very nice thing to have. Always think it'll be there. And books are that way. Period. I don't get rid of books I read. I
don't either. Yeah,
way too many books stuffed in this whole house,
The physical product must continue to exist. We do a compilation CD every year featuring bands that played the festival, and we don't stream them. They're on the label Omnivore, which America has had releases on Omnivore.
Yeah,
if you're familiar, and both, and they agreed with me. We don't have them on any streaming service because we want people to buy the physical product.
Okay, very cool.
And speaking of physical product, just so everybody knows, across the bottom of the screen, judewarne.com will take you to Jude's website. And I'm assuming everything's available there because there's autographed copies. There's just all the information you could possibly want there. He was holding up the American book. It's a great website. So judewarne.com. Make sure you stop by there if you're a fan of Oz or the America or anything. Pick up some.
I wonder if we should. I should have prepared more sufficiently for this, but because it was your publisher, Jude, who had the idea that we should give. Because when they sent me the book, they decided to add 5 more. Why, I don't know. So I have 5 extra copies of Lowdown at my house.
Oh,
And they
nice.
suggested that we do a giveaway. And I was remiss in not contacting you, Mark, and telling you that, because maybe you could have come up with a trivia question for somebody.
Well, it's all right. Tell you what, anybody who's
Maybe I have a good. Let me think of a good America trivia question.
no, actually, Jude would probably be the person to.
Oh, do you have one? Do you have a good one, maybe for people, and whoever answers it, I'll be happy to send them the book.
Good question.
Maybe we should wait for a Boz trivia question, because that's the book. That's a good segue. Let's move on to that. So Boz Scaggs, are you a huge fan of his music as well? Was he someone you'd aspired to write about for a long time?
Yeah, I've always been a big fan of his different albums, and like I think one of you mentioned at the beginning of this, how the more known albums like Silk Degrees and the trio that kind of came, the 2 that came after that, which I see as a trio, Down to Then Left, and then Middleman, which were definitely more dance music focused, sonically speaking. And Silk Degrees was arguably or literally the biggest hit commercially that Boz ever had. Those are such great records, and I loved getting to write about them and celebrate them, and speak to a lot of the people who worked on those records with Boz, like a lot of the Toto guys, David Page, who wrote the foreword, as we mentioned earlier, and people like Steve Lukather and Steve Recaro, David Hungate, that the Toto original lineup, but they were also involved with Boz at that time, so that was great. But in terms of why, separate motivation for writing the book, I love a lot of those other records that aren't remembered as well nowadays, like some of the later blues, tribute kind of blues covers albums that Boz did, even like his recent trilogy in the last 10 years or so. These 3 albums of a lot of cover songs and some originals that are just these really great works that showcase Boz's first love of American blues music, and also highlight his gorgeous vocal abilities, and the arrangements on those records are so beautiful and kind of delicate and thought out. So those are great works. I wanted to be able to talk about them, and then even some of the earlier, like the albums before the Silk Degrees years, are so wonderful too, and a bit under discussed. They were celebrated enough, in Rolling Stone and certain other review outlets and stuff, but nowadays are not as talked about. Like the Moments album is one of my favorites. It's got this Van Morrison vibe going on. It's moody. There's so many different kinds of tracks on it, and Slow Dancer too is such a beautiful record with you can hear the sound that you eventually hear on Silk Degrees coming, but they showcase different nuances of Boz as an individual artist.
Oh, they have more of an early 70s production, so
yes,
you hear the more soulful side rather than the more upbeat, danceable side.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
Nice. Well, I just I was talking to David, 2 weeks ago when he was talking about you being on the show, and obviously I'm familiar with America's work, but I wasn't. I was never into Boz Scaggs. Now I have to start listening more to see what you guys are talking about more. But when I was looking at your website and tried to figure out, without telling the world what your age is, and I was like, how is this lady into Boz Scaggs enough that she wrote this book? Because I was not into. I mean, I lived through it and I wasn't into it, and you did not. So it's fascinating. That's part of what's great about this show, is not only does everybody get to learn about these things and stuff that you're producing, these books, so do I. So now I'm back into revisiting all this stuff, and Lowdown's going to be on my list now. I'm going to have to send away for an autograph copy.
That's so great, and I mean that's one of the motivators too that I have with writing anything and writing one of these books, is to remind people about these other albums that are not played on the radio nowadays as much, and just show and highlight different ways of listening to the songs. I do a lot of lyric analysis in there. It's my interpretation of the songs, but I lace in some recording session facts, and you kind of get to relive a version of listening to the record, but in written form. But yeah, that was one of my purposes.
Well, I admire that. I admire it. I just admire it. I mean, anybody who puts that kind of time and effort into. I mean, we had I forget. I lost his name, but the guy we had on the show, David, that did the Stephen Van Zandt book, and the
Robert Lawson.
Robert Lawson, the lifelong love and collecting of all the information that he put into that book. It's just amazing. So anybody who puts the time into to really do a study and get deep into it is, I don't know, it's all inspiring to me, and kudos to you for doing that and the whole process.
Here.
Yes, it really.
Which, by the way, is HEAR double, not HERE. People.
There.
That's cool.
Jude, I like to think of myself as the comedy of this show, but I'm more like the comic relief. So I'm sorry about that.
Okay, works for me.
It's all right. It's all right. Looks aren't everything, David. But
actually, it's funny about Boz Scaggs. I didn't know who he was, and I'll date myself here very well because who else would date me? But the early 1976, maybe it was spring, I was in a local department store in Rockland County, New York, called Bradley's, and they had a record department, and I see this album called Silk Degrees, and before I see the name of the artist, I see a photo, and I'm thinking, wow, does Elton John have a new album? Because that's the only picture of Boz Scaggs that I've ever seen where I thought he looked like Elton John. And then I saw, who is this Boz Scaggs guy? And what kind of a name is that? Yeah, I mean, I didn't buy it right then. I think, trying to remember, I think I heard What Can I Say on the radio. I think that was the first song. I said, all right, it's not Elton John, but I need this. And that started it there.
That's a great song. And I love the album cover itself. I think it's so mysterious and appealing, and it makes sense that it would pull most people in, I believe. And I got to interview the photographer who took that cover shot, Moshe Bracha, who's this successful photographer now. But it was one of his earliest gigs that he ever had, and it was very low key, bare bones. He took a model with him and Boz, and they just shot some photos, and it was kind of streamlined, low key process. But a recognizable image with as far as Boz's career was concerned anyway. And I love getting to speak with people like that, as I mentioned, who were there when these different historical moments happened. And also part of what my motivation, like we were talking about earlier with writing this kind of thing, is to also highlight or celebrate, popular music history as a whole, which Boz's career specifically enables in terms of all of the blues cover songs that he's done, and his own appreciation and homage to classic blues artists and Texas blues and classic rock artists, and his love for Ray Charles, for example. That's kind of how the book starts out a bit. And this writing about him allowed me to kind of write about these other people in a way too. And also I got to write about the Toto guys who I interviewed, as I mentioned, who worked with Boz right when they were forming their band. So they have such lovely memories of working with him and that exciting time in their careers and lives. But there's a chapter in the book all about the beginning of Toto, which is one of my favorite chapters. It's just I tried to capture the excitement, that was going on at that time, and getting to lace in these interviews I had with most of the guys who were there was a lot of fun. So that's another fun part of the book.
I like the quote that you had in the book from Boz about Silk Degrees, where he said, we had no real aspirations of the kind of success we had. We weren't intending to make an album that would be successful. We just did our thing, and it ended up working out. And that's always gratifying to see something like that.
Yeah, that's part of the magic, I think, of that particular project. Like he went in with wanting to do another solid album, didn't see it as any different necessarily than the last album he had done, other than bringing in this new collaborator, David Paich, who was this up-and-coming songwriter at the time. And I think David's brilliant talent that he has on his own, laced in with, Boz's motivation and career that he already had established, that was just such a dream pairing. And it really shows in the songs on that record how they stand the test of time.
It was a really good thing, I guess, that he left the Steve Miller Band, because had he not, who knows if he would have had any kind of career like that. And of course, Steve probably has no complaints. Steve Miller has made more money by doing nothing than anybody else. What I mean by that is, no, it's not an insult. I'm actually in complete admiration. His lyrics I mean, his lyrics could have been, but in some ways it's a subtle genius, because they could have been written by a 5-year-old. I mean, well, think of the chorus of some of his hits. Keep on rocking me, baby. Keep on rocking me, baby. Keep on rocking me, baby. Keep on rocking me, baby, baby, baby. Or abracadabra, I want to reach out and grab you. Abracadabra, abracadabra. I mean, and yet they go to number one. It was amazing. His choruses are so simple lyrically, yet they really hit home. They hit hard. So I salute Steve Miller for that.
I think it's funny. I mean, if you look at a lot of the most famous rock and roll songs, or most successful, sometimes have the simplest lyrics, like you're talking about, like even the Lieber and Stoller stuff from the older days, and even nowadays, certain pop songs that are like the most successful sometimes can be simpler. I think I remember hearing a story about when Steve ended up writing Abracadabra, that he was motivated or inspired by like the Supremes hits, Diana Ross and stuff. I think he like ran into her skiing somewhere, like they were both at a resort or something, and he remembered how much he loved the their work and the theoretical simplicity of some of their major hits, and that kind of laced together, which I like. But I love Steve Miller so much.
Holland Dozier Holland, or like Dostoevsky. That's okay. Again, you don't have to be literate to have a huge hit and have something that stays in your head. I mean, I'll never forget those songs. Anyhow, you can Fly Like an Eagle. Think of that chorus. There's nothing there either. I mean, it's okay because musically it all works, and you don't forget them.
Yeah. Well, and it is also at a time when a lot of lyrics were very simple, and we talk about the good old days. Wish we knew they were the good old days when we were in the good old days. But
very true.
It's very true. But a lot of that stuff going on through the early 70s, lyrically was very simple, and that's why it's stuck in our heads, because you didn't have to think too hard to sing it down as you're walking down the street.
But he and Harry Wayne Casey, otherwise known as KC, were the masters of that. You look at the lyrics of those songs, there's like nothing there either, but lyrically, but they work. They really work. Get Down Tonight, and I'm Your Boogeyman, and all of that stuff. It's just great.
Well, it is. Great time. It's a great time. Jude, you talked about a number of people that you've interviewed along your path. Have you ever fangirled out on somebody to the point where you just kind of lost the fact that you're sitting there, or you're talking to somebody live in person? Because David and I we've talked to a lot of people on the show, and we've rubbed shoulders live with some big names and things like that.
I don't recall our shoulders ever touching our guest shoulder.
Well, you and I know, but particularly. But people have always asked me, do you ever get like tongue tied, or because you really like I think the only person that I would kind of go would probably be if I was sitting across from Paul McCartney. I would probably just lose my. And I'm pretty cool character, but I think I would just kind of lose my shit and just kind of sit there and stare at him until something pops my head. Have you ever had a moment like that? And if not, who would make you go to jelly in your head if you had an opportunity to talk with them?
Well, yeah. I mean, an interesting question. First of all, a couple of what you're talking about, those moments of like where you get tongue tied or something, they have happened to me when I have not been interviewing. There were people I like ran into kind of on the street or something. For example, you mentioned Paul McCartney. I actually, my mom and I ran into him in New York, just walking on the street, and we said a quick hi to him. Wow. And we had a nice interchange, and that was like very what you're talking about, kind of not being able to function for a while, just because it was so exciting, and even though it was quick, and he was so nice and positive moment. Also, I met David Bowie when I was in school. I was in a chorus, and we performed, at all these different venues and around the city and the world and stuff. But he was at this gala that we were performing at, and my friend and I spoke with him, and he was so nice too. And that was very felt like I was going to pass out kind of thing. So those are some of my favorites. Who I think now, well, I have interviewed Donald Fagen briefly over the phone, and that was very exciting. I'm such a big fan of his. If I ever met him in person and got to, like, I don't know, hang out or do an extended kind of interview, I might like faint. I so much. So that I don't know if I could make that work, but yeah, he comes to mind for that.
I had one of those moments. I interviewed Brian Wilson in 1999 after the Your Imagination album came out. I knew his publicist. I was writing for a paper back then called Entertainment Today, which was a big San Fernando Valley paper. I live in Los Angeles. She said, "Do you want to interview him?" Of course, he could have knocked me over with a feather. She said, here's his address. We'll set it up. Just meet me there." And so yeah, I met her there way up in the hills. There I am sitting across from Brian, probably 2 feet from him, and I'm looking at that face, and suddenly I have an out of body experience. Like I'm observing this. This isn't me. It can't be me. Interviewing my biggest hero in music. That was back. Unfortunately, that was during the time where he wasn't really as comfortable with interviews as he became. Once they got him out to do the Smile tour, he really loosened up quite a bit, relatively. So he was mostly giving one-word answers, but still, it's just looking at that face. I mean, you just can't believe it. I don't know if I even want to. If there was somebody took video of that, I don't think I'd want to look at it. I'd probably
watch it back
in outer space or something. But yeah, I mean, no matter who you meet, there's always going to be. And yeah, if I met McCartney, I might be like that, or maybe I'd just be a wise guy to cover it all up. I don't know. Paul McCartney goes to Liverpool every year to speak to the graduating students of LIPA, Liverpool Institute of Performing Arts. The woman who originally got us into the Cavern Club, Jean Catherall, she used to work for LIPA, and she still goes to that ceremony and speaks with Paul. And I've asked her a few times if somehow, some way, but it doesn't work out time-wise. That the graduation's a little bit after when we do the festival there. But hopefully one day.
Yeah. All the time. What's next for Jude? What are you working on right now? Can you do you have any secret books you're putting together now, or what's your plan? What's the future?
Yeah, I'm working on a new book. It's about Robert Palmer and all of his records.
Wow.
So it's exciting, and it's at the early stage of it, but I'm very happy to be writing about it. I love so many, all of the records, but some there are particular albums that I really am very excited to get to write about and do the deep dive that I kind of do in the Boz book and the America book.
Say that's got to be a different challenge than the fact that Robert Palmer is no longer here to talk to, and
sadly, yes.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it'll be more, albums focused, and then of course extensive research and how, quoting interviews. Unfortunately, I can't speak to him in this plane, but you never know.
I have one Boz trivia question that'll be quick, but whoever answers this has to do it within the first 5 seconds, because we don't want you Googling this. But what's Boz Scaggs's real name? I want the first and middle name.
Oh, I don't even.
No, well, I just looked it up.
Oh, did you? Okay. First and middle name.
Is this for the person who we're doing
whoever gets this? Oh, I'm sorry. Whoever gets this right, I will send a copy of Jude's book.
I won't answer.
Well, hopefully you know, yeah.
You might have a copy of the book. I don't know.
I probably
low down.
No one's getting it quickly enough.
We'll figure it. If no one gets it, we'll. You've got books. We'll give them away at some point in time.
Yeah, I mean, we'll figure out a whole trivia thing on one of our other episodes.
Great.
You still live in New York, Jude? Or where are you based out of?
Yeah, it's New York. It's it's a pretty good place. Hard to go anywhere else from my perspective for long. I always feel like I end up back here, because it's just really pretty good. I like LA a lot, but I also can't drive a car, so I feel kind of trapped.
Yeah, it's the transit situation with has gotten a little bit better recently. I don't know when you were there last.
April. Yeah.
Oh, April. Well, no, it hasn't gotten better. It hasn't gotten much better since then. So yeah, it's a tough one. But if you ever do come out to LA and you need a ride somewhere, I'll find someone to take. No, I mean I'll be happy to.
New York.
I was gonna ask something else.
New York's where it's at, though. I'm here in South.
I love Manhattan. I mean, in November I do the International Pop Overthrow Festival there, and every time we come back to Manhattan, it feels like home. Having graduated NYU and everything. The Village, which is where do you know a place called the Parkside Lounge?
No.
It's on Houston, a little bit east of where Arlene's Grocery and Katz's Deli and all of those are. So it's a little bit down the street, but
okay.
I'll actually, in fact, we just put the lineups up for that festival on the website, so I'll send you a link to that.
Oh, cool.
And maybe you'll find somebody new to write about. An up-and-coming an artist that imbues all the spirit of some of the ones that you've written about and love.
Yeah, I would love to. I mean, I do try to interview newer people when I can. Like I interviewed Hardy Har. They're John Fogerty's sons, Shane and Tyler, but they have a great band of their own, and they do a lot of echoes to 60s, 70s music, but it's new. So
really, I'm unaware. What are they called?
Hardy Har. They're really good.
Can you spell that? I'm going to write this now.
It's like Lippy the Lion and Hardy Har Har. Hardy Har.
Yes.
Is it Hardee?
No, it's like Hearty.
Oh, Hearty.
Yes.
And then Har?
Yes.
2 words?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like.
I had no idea. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, they're good. And Marcus Eaton, do you know him? He's a guitar player. He worked with David Crosby for a while. And his brother is A.J. Eaton, who directed the documentary about David Crosby, who I'm friends with, actually. But Marcus does great guitar work, and he just worked on the new Stephen Bishop album that came out. And that has so many guest artists on there, like the America guys are on, and that's a beautiful.
Oh, wow. All right.
Too. So I do try to and Joel Patterson, too, I just interviewed a few weeks ago. That feature's coming out this week, I think, on Vinyl District. But he's a great guitarist, does a lot of retro sounding work, instrumental guitar work. It sounds like Les Paul stuff, but he's really great.
Wow.
Oh, great.
Fantastic. We learn stuff every show, David.
We really do. And we really appreciate that you took the time to spend with us and enlighten us about a few things. And we really hope that the Boss Gags fans out there who are unaware of this book go and buy it. I assume it's available on the usual places like Amazon.
Yes, yeah, Amazon, okay. Barnes and Noble, and maybe your local bookstore. Who knows? But yeah, definitely on those 2.
And you sell autographed copies from your site?
I do. Yeah. Should anybody be interested, we can work that out.
JudeWarne.com. It's going across the bottom of your screen right now. So
I'll be ordering. You know what? If your publisher doesn't send me an America book, I will order an autographed copy.
Very good.
Okay. Sure.
If they haven't done it yet, you can tell them not to, because I'll definitely.
Okay,
do that.
I think they're sending one. But sounds good.
Okay.
Outstanding. What a wonderful time, Jude, and best of luck with the books and the Robert Palmer thing you're working on. That's I look forward to that. Big Robert fan.
Thank you so much.
This has been absolutely wonderful. It's been very enlightening, and again, as I always say, I'm fascinated with the process of putting things like this together. And,
thank you too, Tim.
A lot of work, and it's greatly appreciated.
Tim, I can't believe you didn't get that trivia question right. I knowing you, Tim, I figured you went to Wikipedia immediately when I said we might ask a boss trivia question, but I guess not.
Jude, have a wonderful evening. And again, good luck. JudeWarne.com is where you can find it all. And this has been fantastic. Thanks for joining us here on Material Issues.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure.
Thanks so much, guys.
All right. Have a great night. See you, Jude.
You
See ya.
too.
All right. Bye-bye. Ah,
Wow.
that was fun.
That was outstanding. And it was worth my 45 minute struggle to figure out my electrical problems here. And I think with 30 seconds left, I got to pop in and make it happen. But
Jude,
yeah.
if you're still listening and you do meet McCartney again, maybe he'll say, "Hey, Jude," and it'll make your life.
Get one of those in there. You got to, yeah. Fast day interview, and I'm gonna have to check out Boz Scaggs' work a little more in depth, and it's really neat. I was a great get. Good job.
Yeah.
Job. Yeah, really, really good.
Well, as it turns out, we only have one more get at the moment. I guess because of all the IPOs that are happening, it's been a little bit more difficult for me to chase people. And I know you've been going through your medical stuff, and that's made it difficult for you to chase people.
Next Tuesday, I got my heart, not this Tuesday, but the following next Tuesday, I get the heart ablation going on.
Yeah,
I won't miss a beat.
that was good.
But yeah, so it's probably a good thing because I'll be home all that week with my daughter. Will be hanging out here with me, and I'll put together a good stump the bash that following week, and we'll have a good time with that. And then we get back into our poking people to be on this show and see what.
Well, next week we'll have again. Story about a band from the early 80s that was purported to be from the mid 60s. An album came out on box called 64 to 67. Sorry. Obviously paying homage to the Beatles' Red album. And it was about a band called The Numbers, who supposedly were around in the 60s, recorded a couple of albums, had some songs that were regional hits. And then the Vietnam War came, and they broke up, and blah blah blah. And it was the back of the album is completely taken up by liner notes about the band. And I was so fooled that I actually tried to order those albums, which don't exist, because it was a hoax, ladies and gentlemen. The band was actually a real band who played around LA in the 80s, but the whole thing about the 60s was complete fabrication. All right, so the album came out. I bought it, really liked it, and then promptly forgot about them. But very recently, a few months ago, my friend Karen sent me a track that she said she thought I would really love, and indeed I did. Very Beach Boys-ish track. And I said, who did it? And she said, this band, The Numbers. I said, wait a minute. Is that the band that was around in the early 80s with the whole hoax thing? And she said, it is. She said, they've actually never stopped being around, but now they've actually recorded some new stuff, and they have an album coming out. And I said, wow. I remember the names of the guys. I said, can you put me in touch with any of them? And she did. She put me in touch with Terry Tudor, one of the two Tudor brothers that made up 2/3 of the band. And we got to know each other, and he sent me an advance, the album in files, and it's really, really good. And it has just come out on Bomb Records, which was a subsidiary. Fox is a subsidiary of Bomb, so they've always stayed in that family. And do you have a picture of it, Mark? Because I didn't bring it with me to Vancouver.
No. Not within the.
Let's say Tim says he's already gotten it.
Oh, look at that. Tim says Terry Tudor is a nice guy. I like the new album a lot.
Yeah, Terry is very nice. He's very, very approachable, and it's a good thing because he's going to be our guest next week on Material Issues, and it's a fascinating story, even with the little I know. But I can't wait to hear the whole thing about how this even happened, and
cool.
How many people were fooled by the hoax and the whole thing. But now there's no hoax. The Numbers are back, and they have a brand new record, and it's really great. And well, we'll find out. We'll play tracks from it.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
We'll play tracks from it next week, and we'll speak with Terry and have a really good time.
Yeah, and after that, like I said, we'll you know how Material Issues goes. If you watch all the archives, we go from like we got one more guest. After that, we don't know what's happening. Then all of a sudden, we're filled up for 2 months, and
it's true.
It kind of runs its courses like that. So we'll see where it goes. Like we said, materialissues.com. Subscribe on YouTube. We send out or subscribe or join the group here on Facebook. We send out a Facebook message that tells you what's happening like 3 days or 2 days in advance, and we don't spam anything. But if you missed any of the 218 episodes, they're all archived, materialissues.com. Go check it out. Tell your friends. Tell them to subscribe. Let them know, because we love when people hang out with us. Tim's a great friend, and he's here for almost every show, and it's nice to see.
Really appreciate that, Tim.
And so it's all good, everybody, and we appreciate you hanging out tonight. And Jude was a wonderful guest.
She was. So after this, Rena and I are going to walk down to the beautiful beach in Vancouver to have some dinner there and see one more sunset before we fly home tomorrow.
One more Indian dinner? Will it be the Indian dinner?
No. It's more, it's more of a just standard Canadian restaurant. So it'll have, which means it'll have good salmon, because there's great salmon up here, and I'm totally with that.
Yeah, indeed. Sounds good, man. I'm going to go have a bowl of cereal.
and then walk the dogs.
And walk the dogs. Yep, that's my night. But I love it. Well, thank you, everybody. Love Dorina.
Love to Chesnaughty.
Safe trip home.
Thank you.
We'll see everybody back here again next Saturday night or next Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Really late if you're over in the UK. Figure it out. It's all good. I can't do the math. But we'll see you back here, Material Issues, materialissues.com.
Absolutely.
Good night, everybody.
Great weekend ahead, and we'll see you Sunday.